Good morning, good evening, good night. Whenever you guys are watching this channel, first subscribe. Just ignore the background. I'm here in my garage, but I want to share with you guys this information here. And I know it's not on the internet that much. They hide this information. They don't like sharing it. The algorithms, you can't hardly find it. But just look at this 2021 House Bill 4471. This was brought up by Rep. Sue Aller, about them forcing employers and forcing employees to get vaccinated. So she brought this bill up in Congress. And like I said, you will hardly ever see this stuff. It's not floating around on the internet. So I'm going to share it with my subscribers. So you can read this right here. The bill is coming up. And I'm going to show you something else right here. It say profiles of the hesitant, people who are hesitating to take the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccines. And right here at the bottom, look at this. By May, the group with PhDs were more hesitant than those with lower education levels. So these people with PhDs, you're talking about scientists and you got lawyers and different people like that. They're hesitating, especially people who have already had the virus and formed antibodies. Like I said, my wife and I, we both in February had the COVID-19, and my wife had it bad. She had respiratory problems, but her immunity is like 10 times that of mine's. When we get our immunity antibodies checked maybe every month and a half, every 2 months, just to see. And I know her job is requiring her to get the vaccine. Even the doctor told her to wait, our doctor, because she got high antibodies. And I'm gonna let you listen to some of this stuff right here that was in Congress. Dr. Chris, I think her name Christine Parks. But check it out, and we'll go through it and we'll watch some of it together. And I'll put a link and let you watch the full hearing. But check it out.
Hello, my name is Dr. Christina Parks. I received my PhD in cellular and molecular biology right here in the state of Michigan from University of Michigan Medical School. And so I'm very well versed in the science of both these mRNA gene therapy vaccines, this kind of technology, as well as what a vaccine is designed to do in the body, what it can do, what it can't do, and the fact that this is extremely complex science that has been oversimplified in the media to basically take away our freedom of choice. What I want to address today in this limited time is the fact that vaccine requirements and mandates are based on the faulty assumption that the vaccines in question prevent transmission of the pathogen, right? Does the vaccine for DTaP prevent transmission? No. Does the vaccine for flu prevent transmission? No. Do the vaccines for COVID prevent transmission? No. In fact, they were never designed to do that. All right, so you're asking, what about this 95% effectiveness? If you look at those clinical trials, they do not say that they prevent transmission. They expressly say that they're measuring whether they attenuate symptoms. So they're 95% effective based on their clinical trials at attenuating symptoms for the first variant, which is essentially gone in our population. Right now, the predominant variant is the Delta, and CDC Director Walensky basically said that these vaccines have no ability to prevent infection by and transmission of the Delta variant. So our policy needs not to be built on the hope of what we think something we want it to do, but what the data actually tell us. So do these viruses do the vaccines prevent the virus from infecting and replicating in the nose and nasopharynx? No. They've only been shown to prevent that replication in the lungs. They're different. The mucosa is very different than the lungs. It's very different than the blood. You inject it to the blood, you make antibodies in your blood. The virus isn't infecting your blood. It's infecting your mucosa, and you don't produce any IgA to neutralize it. In fact, recent studies have shown that the vaccinated, especially with the Delta variant, and the unvaccinated have similar amounts of virus in their nose and throat. In Barnstable, Massachusetts, the CDC tracked an outbreak of 469 cases of COVID. 74% occurred in fully vaccinated, and 4 out of 5 of those hospitalized were vaccinated.
See, and that's the information the CDC is not going to share with people. So it's good for you to do your research. I try to do as much research as I can, and when I find something that I think I should share, I share it with you guys. But we'll continue.
But who do they blame? Now the CDC is blaming anti-vaxxers for the limitations of this vaccine design. All right, what about the flu vaccine? Well, they have shown that basically there's no difference, there's no statistical difference if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, whether you get the flu or not. But it's even worse because although the first year it is somewhat effective, it's about 65% effective at preventing symptoms in you, after that, it actually has negative efficacy. And I want to address this because it's very important. Vaccines are made to a specific variant, and when that variant mutates, the vaccine no longer recognizes it. And so it's like you're seeing a completely new virus. And because that's so, you actually get more severe symptoms when you're vaccinated against one variant, and then it mutates, and then your body sees the other variant. So there's the potential, and the science shows that, in fact, with the flu, if you get vaccinated in multiple years, you are more likely to get severe disease, you are more likely to have more viral replication, and you are more likely to be hospitalized, both in adults and in children. We are seeing the same thing in COVID with the Delta variant. And so we are mandating that people get a vaccine that could actually make them more sick when they're exposed to the virus. In fact, this week, a paper came out, and what it showed is that with this Delta variant, when you're vaccinated, your body makes antibodies that are supposed to neutralize the virus, but they were supposed to neutralize the old variant. When they see this new variant, what they're doing is the antibodies are taking the virus and helping it infect the cells. All right, that science was just published this week. We need to be looking at the science, and we need our policy to reflect the science, and we also need it to reflect our rights.
And I'm gonna pause it right there for a minute. Like I told you guys, my wife antibodies is like 10, maybe 15 times higher than mine because she went through all the symptoms. But I think her job's trying to require them to get vaccinated. She's in the medical field, get vaccinated. But I don't think she decided she's going to make a decision whether to do it or not. And we are in a position to where, she don't have to do it or not. She can quit, or we can try to hire lawyers and stuff and fight this. But a lot of people aren't in that position, especially when you have a one income household. So some people just got to go with the flow, even though they know it may harm them. They will have to get vaccinated. But my wife has options now. She don't have to do it. She can quit. She can go try to find another job or get an attorney to fight this. More likely, we're going to fight it, because we're in that position to do so. But a lot of people aren't in that position. But we'll go ahead and continue.
And so, as a PhD who knows the science, I'm in the category of the most vaccine hesitant group. Yes, PhDs are the most vaccine hesitant.
So you see that PhDs are hesitating to get vaccinated. But I'm going to let you listen to this stuff on CNN. I don't care too much about CNN. When me and my wife was going through quarantine, we had CNN on for about 5 minutes. I turned it off. It was bad because they were telling us, hey, you need to get this, you need to do this, you're going to die. We had to turn that stuff off. But here you go. Check this out. I thought this was very interesting right here. This is an attorney who teaches at a university, and he has the immunities, and he was explaining to you guys, he had COVID there in March, and he has immunities, and he's fighting against the university because they want him to be vaccinated. But check this out.
Hesitant, your view is more nuanced. Explain.
No, let me make clear, Michael. If a vaccine had been around in March 2020 when I got COVID, I would have gotten vaccinated. COVID is no fun. I'm not joking about it. I don't want to get COVID again, and I don't want to risk anybody around me getting COVID. Well, my argument here is that that what the evidence clearly shows is that natural immunity is as protective, provides at least as much protection against infection as the most effective vaccines, and clearly provides more protection than less effective vaccines such as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is that natural immunity is estimated to have about a 90 to 95% protection level, which is similar to the top vaccines. Johnson & Johnson, for example, is only 66%. And so The second thing is that if you've had recovered from COVID and you get vaccinated, you don't just have the same risk of side effects as everybody else. You actually have an increased risk.
And see that since my wife and I had it, and if she get that, it may be okay for me to get the vaccination, but her, I think she would have more side effects. But I'm gonna let her make that decision, and she's a smart lady, and she do her research also. So we'll continue.
Side effects because of the risk of hyperinflammation. So what I'm saying to the university is, we're not challenging their right to be worried about immunity and protecting the community. What I am saying is, though, you do not have you have to have a good reason to discriminate between two different forms of immunity, both of which provide protection.
On the same day that you published thoughts along the lines of what you've just said here on CNN, you did it in the Wall Street Journal. On that same day, Dr. Walensky, the head of the CDC,
Oh my God, I ain't gonna say that, but go ahead.
said that someone in your position should get vaccinated.
Wow.
Yes, and here's the deal, Michael, which is we are so far beyond one-size-fits-all medicine when it comes to this issue. I have an immunologist. My immunologist is a MD, PhD in immunology. He is familiar with my health history. He is familiar with what all of this is and what the literature says. He and I have certainly not ruled out the possibility that sometime in the future it might be useful for me to get some degree of vaccination.
Exactly.
It may be that one shot is appropriate. It may be that 2 shots is appropriate. But the reality here is that I have immunity. My antibody tests are 900 times baseline protection for antibodies. And here's the funny thing, Michael, which is I've talked to a lot of people who've been vaccinated in the past week. I have not met a single person who knows what their who has been vaccinated, who knows what their actual current level of immune protection is.
Exactly.
Right, but you could make Dr. Lena Wen is a CNN medical expert for whom I have a lot of respect. So I shared with her your essay. Here's what she told me.
It is true that those with prior infection from COVID-19 have some immunity protection. However, studies have shown that the protection is not as durable, strong, or consistent as immunity from vaccination. A recent CDC study found that those recovered but remain unvaccinated are twice as likely to be reinfected as those who recovered and subsequently got vaccinated. The presence of antibodies is not a reliable indicator of immune response, and the fact that the CDC does not recognize it will go on and on.
Well, first, the way we determine whether vaccines work is by testing people's antibodies. If you have 0 antibody response, they give you a booster shot. Second, again and again and again, that CDC study, they intentionally misrepresented the findings. It does not say twice as likely to be infected. It says 2-fold likelihood. If you look at the math, what it says is if you do get vaccinated, and this is a very, very flawed study, but if you do look at it, even under the flaws in the study, you have a 0.02 risk of infection if you're vaccinated, and about a 0.05 risk if you're not. Yeah, that's twofold. 0.05 is twice as much, more or less, as 0.02, but we're talking about very, very small margins. They couldn't determine whether or not 1 shot would be enough or 2 shots because they only had 246 people. A 52,000 person study from the Cleveland Clinic found no benefit. A 12,000 person study from Oxford actually found that those who were vaccinated were more likely to develop symptomatic infection. This is a decision for me and my doctor.
Exactly.
Given that I have immunity, it's a decision for me and my doctor as to what to do next.
Okay, I get it. Yours might be a unique circumstance. We're not talking here about a blanket approach to everybody who's had COVID. My goal in this conversation is simply to advance discussion of what about those with some level of natural immunity, because we don't seem to discuss them all that often with all the data about how many who've been vaccinated and how many who haven't.